Shri Krishna Janamashtami. So once upon a time, the earth was feeling overburdened by the activities of demonic kings. The divine and demonic nature is described in Bhagavad Gita. The nature of demonic persons is that they are selfish, greedy, and they stop at nothing to achieve their ends. And when the earth feels such persons on her back, she feels pain. The earth is definitely pained by current activities of demonic persons who are self-obsessed and who have absolutely no interest in anything other than their own pleasure. So at this time, the earth was feeling distressed, and she went to the creator, Brahmaji, in the form of a cow. She was weeping and complaining that there are so many demonic kings who are trampling on me, and they are making so much disturbance. Please do something. So Brahmaji, the creator of the universe, went along with all of the devas, all of the administrators of universal affairs. And they went to the shore of the ocean of milk where Bhagavan Vishnu resides. Vishnu is the maintainer of the universe, and he is the one that everyone goes to when there is a problem that needs to be rectified. They offered hymns known as Purusha Sukta, and Brahmaji sat in meditation and asked Bhagavan Vishnu for an answer. Bhagavan Vishnu spoke to him in his meditation and said, "I will soon appear on the earth as the 8th son of Vasudeva and Devaki. I request all of you demigods to please take birth on the earth immediately in the Yadu dynasty." So all of the devatas began to take birth in the Yadu dynasty. Vasudeva had married Devaki, and they were being driven home after their wedding by Devaki's brother Kamsa. And suddenly a voice spoke out of the sky, "Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and brother-in-law, but you do not know that the 8th son of your sister is destined to kill you." Now Kamsa, of course, was a demon, and he was terrified of anything that might represent a threat to himself. So immediately he grabbed Devaki by the hair, and he pulled out his sword, and he was prepared to cut her head off. Vasudeva, seeing the dire situation, immediately implored Kamsa and said, "O Kamsa, please have some consideration. Do not kill your sister on her wedding day. Instead, you can put us in prison, and any children that come, we will gladly give them to you. But there is no need for any such drastic action at this time. Who knows, it's also possible that the 8th son will be a daughter, and then she could marry you. So, no problem. Don't take this hasty action." Kamsa was pacified by Vasudeva's words. Vasudeva was very good at speaking, and he convinced Kamsa to defer from this horrible action that he was considering. Then Kamsa came back to Mathura, and he was thinking, well, this could happen or not happen. I don't need to do anything. But Narada Muni, whose role it is to stir up the vitality of the pastimes and make things sometimes happen a little faster and add some spice to the mix and some drama, he went to Kamsa and said, "Oh, Kamsa, I see that you have let Vasudeva and Devaki go free. You know that Vishnu is very tricky and he can sometimes come, and you should probably keep them in jail." So Narada is a great devotee of Bhagavan Vishnu. He is such a great devotee that he goes sometimes even to the spiritual world, and he is always telling people about the pastimes of Bhagavan Vishnu. But in this case, he wanted to hasten the appearance of Lord Krishna. So Kamsa, hearing the words of Narada Muni, put Vasudeva and Devaki in prison, and they gave birth to one child after another. And every child that came, Kamsa immediately came and cruelly killed them. This sounds very horrific and horrible, but actually It was predestined. These 7 children, these 6 children who came before, were actually Vasus, who had been cursed to take birth on earth, but their time on earth was very short, and immediately upon being killed by Kamsa, they went back to their place in the heavens. Finally, it came time for Devaki to give birth, and she and Vasudeva had not been together, but Bhagavan Vishnu entered the mind of Vasudeva, and from there he entered the womb of Devaki. There was no need for any contact between them. And Bhagavan Vishnu came within the womb of Devaki. She was glowing and she was looking very radiant. And then finally, on the dark night, on the 8th night of the waning moon, Ashtami, around midnight, Devaki gave birth, and he appeared in a 4-armed form, and then immediately assumed the form of a small baby. Vasudeva and Devaki were very concerned that the guards would hear the crying of the baby, and then they would summon the cruel Kamsa. But instead, all of the guards fell asleep. It was the arrangement of Yogamaya, the mystical energy of Lord Shri Krishna, who arranges all of the pastimes. You could think of Yogamaya as the stage manager for the pastimes of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the doors magically opened, and the shackles that were on the wrists and ankles of Vasudeva and Devaki magically fell off. Vasudeva told Devaki, "I know what I will do. I will take our child, and we shall take him to our friends, our relations, Nanda and Yashoda in Gokul. They are elderly and they have not yet had a child, and they can raise him as their own, and then he will be safe." So Vasudeva put the tiny baby Krishna in a basket on his head, and in that stormy night he ventured out. But somehow they were protected from rain. There was a very large 5-headed snake who came behind them and spread his hoods over the baby. That snake was none other than a manifestation of Anantashesh, Sankarshan, who appears as the Lord's helper and his bed, and he manifests different things for Krishna's pastimes. The Yamuna River was flooded and very, very dangerous to cross. It was very fearful. But somehow the waters became calm and they parted, and Vasudeva was able to cross the river Yamuna and go to Gokul. And there Yashoda had just given birth to a baby girl. And so Vasudeva put the baby Krishna down and took the baby girl back to Gokul, because if the baby Krishna was missing, then Kamsa would start a search. Yashoda was sleeping because she was very tired after giving birth, so she didn't notice, and she could not remember in the morning whether she had given birth to a boy or a girl. So in the morning, Yashoda and Nanda were very happy to see that there was a baby, and after a few days they held the naming ceremony in the cowshed. And Garga Acharya, the family priest, gave him the name Krishna. And he said, "Oh, in previous ages this child has had different names and different forms and different colors, but he shall be called Krishna." So Vasudeva came back to Mathura that same night, and he entered the prison, and again the doors closed, and magically all the guards woke up. And the girl began to cry, and Kamsa immediately was notified by his guards, and he came rushing down, sword in hand, ready to kill this child. He entered the prison, and Vasudeva and Devaki pleaded with him to spare the life of this girl, because after all, it had been prophesied that it was the 8th son of Vasudeva and Devaki that would kill Kamsa, not a daughter. But Kamsa would not be dissuaded, and so he cruelly grasped the young baby girl from the arms of the crying Devaki, and he prepared to throw her down to the ground to kill her. But immediately she slipped out of his hands and flew up into the sky and assumed the form of Durga with 8 arms, holding a sword and other weapons. And she said, "Ha, Kamsa, you are such a fool. You do not know that the 8th son of Vasudeva and Devaki has already been born elsewhere." And so she went off. Kamsa was immediately very afraid and sorry, and he fell on the ground and asked the forgiveness of Vasudeva and Devaki. But the next day, Kamsa summoned his associates, all of the demonic persons like Bakasura, Putana, Aghasura, and others, and he told them, "The 8th son of Vasudeva and Devaki is in hiding somewhere. He is the incarnation of Bhagavan Vishnu, and he is destined to kill me. You please find him and immediately kill him." So Kamsa sent out the orders that all young children born within the past week, all of the male children were to be killed. So his demonic associates were very happy to take on this bloodthirsty work. And they also came to Gokul, but they came and wanted to kill Krishna. But Krishna was only a few days old, and he was lying under a cart. And one of the demon associates of Kamsa entered the cart in the form of a ghost and tried to kill Krishna by falling on him. But Krishna, with his baby legs, kicked, and the cart shattered, and the demon died. That was Shakatasura. Another demon was sent by Kamsa in the form of a whirlwind, Trinavarta. He took the form of a whirlwind, and all the blades of grass were flattened, and the branches of the trees were waving. And Krishna had been set outside for just a few moments by Yashoda, and the demon whirlwind snatched him up and took him high up into the sky, thinking, "I will throw this child down from such a great height, and he will die." But instead, Krishna was enjoying the ride, and he was cackling in his little tiny baby voice, and he was enjoying the view from up high in the sky like a bird. When he was lying on the ground, he had been thinking, "I wonder what this all looks like from up above where the birds fly." So Krishna was very happy. Then when he had enough of his ride, he held onto the neck of Trinavarta and became very, very heavy. Because Krishna is Bhagavan, he can be lighter than the lightest, and he can be heavier than the heaviest mountain. And at this time he was so heavy that Trinavarta was pulled down to the ground and crashed down and died. But Krishna was on top of the demon, and so he was quite safe. When Yashoda heard this great disturbance, she ran outside and saw Krishna was playing on top of the form of a hideous Rakshasa. And she prayed to Lord Narayan, "O Bhagavan Narayan, the Supreme Person, you have saved my dear son Krishna. Thank you very much." Because Yashoda never thought for a moment that Krishna is Bhagavan himself. She never thought that Krishna is God. She only thought of Krishna as her dear beloved son. Because Bhagavan wants to have loving relationships, and such devotees as Yashoda want to have a loving relationship with him that is not in the slightest tainted by any thought that he is God. He is the Supreme Person and the Supreme Controller, from the pores of whose body innumerable universes emanate, and whose plenary portion is the origin of Brahma, who is the creator of the universe. Yashoda never thinks like that. Instead, Krishna is her dear son, and Krishna is meant to sit on her lap and drink milk from her breast. And the milk that Yashoda gives to Krishna is not actually regular milk. It's not even regular mother's milk. It is pure love in the form of milk. So this is the pastime of Krishna's appearance and Krishna's birth and some of Krishna's babyhood activities in Gokul. This is Shri Krishna Janamashtami. It is the day of the appearance of Shri Krishna, and it is celebrated by millions of devotees in India and all over the world. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.